Welcome! You're listening to Making Relationships Work. We're a company focused on women and their marriage. We lead and teach women just like you how to grow into and access, whenever you need to, your wise woman's self. The part of you who is deeply connected to your purpose, your innate wisdom, and your husband and family. We teach women in marriages how to rebuild trust and connection, to work through conflicts, no matter how deep, no matter how painful, and to lead your marriage to a place where the two of you experience marriage mastery. This podcast is about learning the systems and techniques that truly work to reconnect you back into your marriage so that you can experience the freedom that comes with a masterful marriage. Since this podcast is totally free, if you're getting tons of value and you want to support us and make sure that you get more of this good stuff, subscribe below and rate and review our podcast today. Now, on to the show. Hello, Women Making Marriages Work. Hello, Making Relationships Work, Facebook and our YouTube channel. It's so nice to be back with you. I'm feeling really inspired to come and talk to you tonight because I have been interviewing some of our graduates and I'm hearing about differences that their decision to change their life have brought to the fore. And I wanted to talk to you about the common thread that I got from those conversations. And that common thread is largely around understanding your internal resistance, knowing what that is, and then doing the right thing for yourself, regardless of that little whirring motor voice that kind of goes on and on and on in the back of your mind that says, you know, you're too tired, or it's too much, or you can't fit it in, or it'll be okay, or things go back to normal. All of those sentences, all of those phrases, they're designed to make you stop going towards something that your beautiful brain perceives as a threat. And so when we're talking about what a threat is, we're not talking about a lion or a tiger or a bear kind of coming to get you. We're talking about a psychological threat. And the psychological threat is your brain is worried that you're going to go into a space where you look at things that have hurt you in the past or things that are hurting you now emotionally, not physically. And it says to you, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if you're going to be okay if you do that. And so how does it get you to stop? We'll start sending those messages in. So we deny it. No, it's not that bad. We blame others. Well, it's my husband, and if he would just sort this out, I wouldn't have this problem. We minimize it. Oh, well, you know, it's been painful, but other people are going through something much worse. We justify it, we defend it. I'm not that bad. I'm trying all the time. If only my husband would try too. And then we start using the other things like criticism. My husband never picks this up. He should know how to look after me. He's been married to me for this long. Yeah. We go into contempt, that kind of sneer. We basically shut off. We don't connect anymore. And of course, you've heard me say this before. When we follow the resistance, we start to behave. When we follow that little motor voice that's trying to keep us safe, we actually behave in ways that make us less safe. We behave in ways that minimize our opportunity or our chance to actually get in and be the change we want to see. And we really thwart our growth and our personal opportunities for growth. Growth in ourselves, growth in our marriage, growth in our families, growth in how we show up in our communities. And so I'm inspired today to talk to you about that little voice, because you will have heard me tell you to tune in to you and take inspired action from that space. But did you know that that little whirring voice is not inspired action? That little whirring voice is a safety voice. It's not a connection to what is the next right thing for you. It is often a move out of the way of what is the next right thing for you because it might hurt you. I don't mean to downplay that or make light of it. But also sometimes you need to, because it's got a big job, and it's sometimes that little whirring voice. It oversteps its responsibilities and it thwarts you. It thwarts you from creating. It thwarts you from learning. It thwarts you from feeling. And none of those things are good for you. None of those things save your life, which is where that voice came from in the beginning. Instead, it causes problems for you further down the path, but you don't necessarily have to deal with them right now, but you will have to deal with a bigger pile of them in a few months, weeks, years. Yeah. And so the problem is that humans are kind of wired this way to avoid, to not do the work. And then the problem is that relationships can't sustain two people not doing the work, two people listening to that whirly voice that tells them to avert and to go over here and not deal with this big mucky mess that the two of you have created. And it says, don't do that because it will hurt. Well, yeah, it will hurt. But what is pain? Do you feel like you can't walk through some pain? Pain is like any feeling, it passes. And so then what are you really afraid of? Well, probably not much. Maybe you're afraid that you might have this conversation that you need to have, or this series of conversations you need to have, and you might lose your marriage. Well, maybe, but avoiding having those conversations, resisting having those conversations, maybe your marriage doesn't end right today, but it's heading in the trajectory of ending. And it's heading in that way because it's building up resentment. It's building up this toxicity that is like a bump in the rug that you trip over. Every time you trip over it, it ends in a worse argument. And so you pull it all back together, let that safety voice play out, don't get back in it, and then you bump into it again and add another little bit to it. And that is what life is, my friends. You know it, I know it. And so I was talking tonight with my graduates who don't live like that anymore. They don't live putting things under the rug. They have learned how to bring things into a conversation and have that conversation as two friends holding hands, saying, what do we need to do? How do we figure this out? And that, my darlings, is where we want to bring your ability and awareness to. And every time you listen to that motorized safety voice telling you to avoid doing what needs to be done, you're adding more problems to your future self. And you will catch up to that future self at some point. And these quarantine conditions that we're in, all of your past selves stuff that you've put off to the future are coming up. I know, because we cannot keep up with the level of help people want from us. We cannot keep up. We cannot keep up. And that is because their selves have been creating this pushing under the carpet, and the bump is now so big that there's no way around it. And so here's the thing. There is a way, there are multiple ways to live a life where you're not listening to that safety voice unless you really need to, and you can tell the difference between it just avoiding doing some work versus actually literally keeping you safe. And I want you to know what that is. I also want you to be well aware that the voice that tells you the next inspired action to take that is exactly the right thing for you is very different in tone and sound and words and phrases than the safety voice who's telling you to stop it and shut it down and go over here. That voice is a mean voice. That voice is super critical. That voice you inherited from your family of origin. It isn't kind to you. It's not kind to your husband, and it's not kind to your family, and it is trying to keep things safe. That is not the voice you want to lead your marriage. That is the voice of a marriage that's going to implode. The voice you want is a kind voice. The voice you want is the embodied, connected voice for when you're feeling joy and energy and power, and you're creating from a space of connection to self, connection to others, because that voice leads a marriage in a totally different way. Sure, you might need some skills. You can watch the masterclass. There are some great skills in there. But you know what else you need? You need to stop listening to your safety voice. You need to get a hold of your physiology. You need to connect to yourself and lead from that hard space. And that word was heart space, not hard space. They sound similar, but of course they're very different. And so, my darlings, I want you to get very clear on safety voice versus heart space voice. They are very different. One comes from here, it's angry, it's tight, It's not creating a good life for you. It's defending the old, the known, the familiar, the comfortable, but not the one that's working for you. And I want you to connect with the voice that is kind, but straight, forward, direct, understands the spark that's within you needs to express itself. It needs to create, it needs to be leading, it needs to be creating the life that you're meant to live, that you're designed to live, that is specific to you. And that light needs to turn on. And that light needs to start to say, what is the next right thing I need to do to have more of this energy and more of this magic that comes from me in my life? That is the whole point of everything. So if you're hearing that resistance voice, you're on the wrong channel. You need to change to the channel of the connection voice. Yeah? If you need help with that, watch the masterclass. I'll put the link in below. You're also welcome to book a free breakthrough call with us. And we will do our best to get to you and pop you on a waiting list if we need to. You can be the change you want to see. This is available for you right now. But that safety voice is not going to get you to where you want to go. And that safety voice is very triggered by the pandemic, by the current global situation. Don't listen to the safety voice apart from getting the key messages you need. The rest of the time, you're in your wise woman. You're in that connection heart space. That's where you want to live. I'll see you there. Bye, darlings. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you're feeling fired up and you're ready to grow and you want to know more about how to do that, here is what I want you to do now. I want you to watch my marriage masterclass. This masterclass will show you how my clients have turned their struggling marriages into thriving marriages, even without their husband's buy-in. How my clients have gone from cycles of poor communication, disconnect and loneliness to being teammates and soulmates with their husbands again, even after they've already tried everything. And the proven system my clients use to start transforming their marriages in minutes, not years, because life is too precious to waste one more minute in an unhappy and unfulfilling marriage. So if this is what you're looking for, I want you to click the link below and take a look at my masterclass.